there is a thought out here that this young man, who's had his share of issues, he's had some stuff going on. Ezekiel Elliott, running back for the Dallas Cowboys, um, is threatening a holdout. Looks like there's going to pretty much be a holdout into the regular season because it's getting so late to this point that to just throw him on the field without training camp, without the type of conditioning that is needed, you're not doing any favors to him physically or the team. Um, and we were having a conversation before we started, and there's a concept kind of floating around. Is Ezekiel Elliott setting running backs back
Mhm.
overall? Because if you remember in the 80s, even into in the 70s, definitely the 70s and the 60s, and into the early to mid 90s, the running back position was considered a far more vital and critical position. Um, it's but it's changed with the game
Yes,
of football.
several
It's
teams you
changed.
would know the running back's name ahead of the quarterback, even if the quarterback was decent.
Yeah, in some for some teams,
Yeah,
for some teams, you might
yeah,
know
just in some
yeah,
instances. Yeah.
you might know the running back more. But now things have changed. Obviously, most offenses are pass oriented offenses, and even the top running backs, most of them are top notch running backs because they're also a major part of the passing game.
Hmm.
Saquon Barkley, Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, Ezekiel Elliott, all of those guys catch. They have the amount of receptions that the second or third receiver used to have or still
Yeah.
does have for NFL teams. So with your books were saying, say put it the way you put it before we started, because I don't want to misquote you.
Well, no, you said it pretty well. Like, yeah, like has he set running backs back? Because here's the thing. Here's the thing that like occurs to me that I don't want to say brings validity to it, but makes it an interesting question. Because of what the Dallas Cowboys are, right? The whole America's team thing. The celebrity element of Cowboys players usually skyrockets. And Ezekiel Elliott has had so many missteps, but he's so good. I feel like if he would have been a better actor, right? Throughout all of this, his star level could have really pushed things forward. Because I mean, really, it's Adrian Peterson who kind of cut it off. Because Adrian Peterson was top talent, got into a bunch of controversies, and now really they don't talk about too many running backs. Like since AP, like AP was the last person that got that kind of press, got commercials and all of that at that level, right? Ezekiel Elliott, I feel like he probably could have been the next guy with a combination of his extraordinary talent and the fact that he's on the Cowboys, but he threw it away early on. And now it's to the point where people are talking about him like, you know, people are talking about him like he's, just another, almost like a wide receiver just acting up. Like his
Yeah,
name doesn't really mean anything anymore. I'd be
yeah,
surprised if I saw him as a major sneaker endorser. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. I honestly, I don't think that anything he's done has set the running back position back. The evolution of the game has put the running back where it is. Ezekiel Elliott is still a very important player to what the Cowboys do because of his versatility as a receiver and as a runner, and also he's a pretty underrated blocker in passing situations too.
he's a great
Because
player.
yeah, he's a great player. I don't think he's the best running back in the league. I would probably have him second or third. I take Saquon Barkley over everybody. I mean, as far as at the running back position, Saquon Barkley literally has, and I was just talking to Junior about this morning. Saquon Barkley has everything needed to be in the conversation for the greatest running back to ever live once he's done. And that's obviously barring no injuries and that kind of
Hmm.
but if he does what it looks like he can do and it stays relatively healthy, man, the numbers and the accomplishments. Now they might not win, and that's a point that I want to bring up. And so you guys get ready because some people might have a problem with this. Running back is the single most overrated position in football. is the single most overrated position in football. History has proven that great running backs don't equal anything but statistics. If you go back over and look at Super Bowl champions, how many, and not even look at Super Bowl champions, look at great running backs throughout the history. Go from top to bottom when you look at the most, the players, when you look at the all-time rushing list. And you tell me how many of those guys led teams to Super Bowls.
No, I think the offensive line is definitely much more important than a running back. Like
100%.
as you said with the
100%.
Giants, we have Saquon Barkley. I'm a Giants fan. For everybody who don't know, watching the show, we don't talk football a lot. Giants have been my favorite team since I was a baby. One of my favorite sports teams overall, and we have possibly the best running back in the league. Definitely one of the greatest talents at running back. And would I trade him right now for our old offensive line? In a heartbeat. He's
Yeah.
out of here.
Yeah.
God bless you. Good luck. But
Yeah.
give me that offensive line back and give my quarterback some time. You know? So,
Yeah.
we got D Johnson in the chat. What's up, man?
Yeah.
So,
And you
I
know,
agree. I agree with you. It's not so much that I think it's overrated necessarily, because when the game was slower at the time, it was more important. It wasn't the be all end all, but it was, you could build around that with the prop. Like, it allowed you to have a great defense because you could really manage the ball. So if you had a great running back, if you had a great running back and a great defense, a lot of those teams did really well. It was when
yeah.
you had a great running back and all you had was offense, it's not good enough to run your offense. So I think today it's moved away from it, and people don't consider the running back a premier position. So I don't think it's overrated now, but I think in that transition it became overrated.
I think it's still a bit overrated, unless you're talking about fantasy football, of course, because then that's when it's extremely and that sounds like a joke, but fantasy football is so important to the NFL. It
Yeah, it
really
is.
is. So, but in the scheme of the game, I think it's still overrated, and here's why. As much as I love Saquon Barkley, where did he go in the draft? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about a top 4, top 3 pick in the draft, man. And you mean to tell me that the state of where the Giants were, that they could afford to spend that pick? I mean, he was a second overall pick in 2018. The Giants had a lot of problems, man. They had a lot of problems. And here's the thing. I grew up a Bears fan, right? My
Mm-hmm.
opinion, the greatest running back I've ever seen is Walter Payton, right? Obviously, I'm
Mm-hmm.
probably a little biased, but I'm in the ballpark with
Well,
that.
he's in the conversation.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
ballpark, right? Walter Payton's best years were before the Bears won the Super Bowl. When the
yeah.
Bears finally won the Super Bowl in '85, Walter Payton was coming down.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Bears would have won in '85 with another running back. It didn't have to be Walter Payton. And when he was rushing, setting single game rushing records for 275 yards in 1977 against the Minnesota Vikings, that was a horrible team.
Mm-hmm.
That was a horrible team. When he was all of the stuff that you look at on highlight, if you go and YouTube search a Walter Payton highlight, all of that stuff that you see is with him doing that on horrible teams. And if just think about it, O.J. Simpson, one of the greatest running backs of all time. Not a prolific Super Bowl winner. They the Buffalo Bills contended, but they also had a very good defense.
I
But
mean, you go down the list: Priest Holmes, Marshall Falk.
well,
You
Marshall
know,
Faulk won. But
he won, but I'm saying, like,
yeah.
look at how many. If a quarterback was as great for
Mm-hmm.
as long Marshall, and he also had Kurt Warner, but if a quarterback
Yeah.
was as great for as long as Marshall Falk was as great, you
Yeah.
usually expect to see them in the Super Bowl more often than that,
Yeah.
because Marshall
Yeah.
Falk was like basically a perfect running back
Yes.
for years and
Everything.
years and years.
No
Yeah,
matter what era you put him in.
yeah. LaDainian Tomlinson,
Yeah.
like
No.
a
No.
lot of the premier. Yeah, it just doesn't affect.
It doesn't translate to Super Bowls.
No,
You
I
know.
think running back complemented with a defense, you see better cross section of good
Yeah.
results.
But you know what? If you don't have an offensive line, it doesn't matter how great he is.
I agree.
It doesn't matter how great he is. So to me, if you give me a dominant offensive line and a dominant defensive line, being dominant on those two areas of your football team covers a multitude of sins.
I
because
agree.
if you can get to the pass, if you can get to the passer and you can stop the run, you make the linebackers better because now they don't have to shed blocks because you have to double team guys on the defensive line, and you also make it where your corners don't have to cover as long because you're getting to the passer. On the offense, if you have a great offensive line, you're creating holes that don't require a special athlete to split them, to get
Right,
through them.
right.
You know, if you got a great offensive line, you're giving a quarterback time to the point where he's not having to perform under duress. So you're not even clicking into his elite trait because he doesn't have to most of the time.
Yeah.
So that's why I would rather have those spots. And I think running back gets way too much attention. And that's the main reason why I don't think Ezekiel Elliott or anybody else's holdout at running back has any impact on where running back is seen in the grand scheme of things, because it's just the evolution of the game. And it's really people getting smarter about football.
I agree. I think the analytics has reached football, but I do think Ezekiel Elliott dropped the ball in terms of his ability to be a star because of how overrated the running back position can potentially be. I think being on the Cowboys and being excellent, he could have been huge, and he's just gotten into too much trouble, has become too much of a headache, and now is, in that section of football player where if you watch football, you're going to know what he's doing and where he is. But if you don't watch football, you're not going to see his face a whole lot.
Yeah, and Jerry Jones just essentially told him what he thinks of him. He's like, Ezekiel who? Like, bro,
That's not a joke. I
bro,
don't think that's a joke.
you're a running back. I got another guy that can hit a hole. You know what I'm saying? Because with as long as I got Tariq and I got Travis Frederick and I got Zach Martin blocking, I can get somebody else to hit this hole.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not quite as dynamic after the catch as you, and maybe that is kind of whatever, but I don't have to deal with your distraction, all of that. You're not worth the noise you're making. You better be quiet. So it comes down to that.